Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Blessed with good health and the time and opportunity to continue the study of Surah Al-Ahqaf. Let's start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Alhamdulillah, we continue Surah Al-Ahqaf. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 8 to 11 in the last lesson. We recap, they said that Rasulullah SAW forged the Quran. This has always been a recurring allegation against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has presented his arguments against their allegations. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam was to tell them that if he had forged it, they can't do anything for him against Allah. What is implying here is that like, it is between him and Allah. He forged the Quran. That means he is saying an untruth about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is fabricating lies against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah will be the one who would punish him, and they would not be able to do anything, right, to save him or to. It's not a concern, like basically. It is what Allah will do to him, and not nobody. That means he is sure that if he does that, if he forged this and say that it's from Allah, and Allah will handle him, Allah will deal with him, and they can't do anything about it. So Allah knows what they say. So this is taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell them, right, that if that's the case, then Allah will deal with him and they can't do anything about it. Anyway, Allah knows what they say. So Allah is aware of what they say. He's telling them that the Quran is definitely from Allah. He is enough as a witness between them. He doesn't need, he only needs Allah. Allah knows very well that he is a prophet of Allah, and Allah is good enough for him as a witness between them. He is the forgiving, the merciful. Of course, in this thread of forgiving and merciful, some of our scholars have said that it is to remind them that they have actually done something really wrong here, to accuse him of forging the Quran. So they should look at the Quran in itself and then realize that Allah is all forgiving, and Allah will forgive them for their wrong sayings, and because Allah is all merciful. We mentioned that in forgiving comes with mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a reward that Allah blesses people who obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in asking for forgiveness, you have acknowledged that you have done wrong against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's a good deed, which also would allow you to be blessed with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah is to tell them that he was not the first of messengers. So now he comes around and he reminds them that he is not the first messenger ever to be sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There were messengers that came before him. He does not know what will be done to him and to them. That means he has no power at all. He has no power. He has got no, he can't predict what's going to happen to him, not only to him, but to them also. This is all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sallallahu only follows what is revealed to him. So this is the nature of his mission. His mission is only to abide by what Allah asks him to do. He doesn't know. He can't make things happen, as they have been asking him to prove what he has said, that he is to prove what he said, that there will be punishment for them if they don't listen to him. And although he has given substantial enough proof of the various nations before him, it doesn't seem to be good enough for them. They still want him to show outright the punishment that he is warning them against. So he says, remind them, he's only a warner. I said, he's just going to warn, and that's his job. Finish. Rasulullah is to ask them if the Quran is from Allah and they disbelieve in it, yet a witness from Bani Israel believed. So he puts a scenario here. Now let's look at the facts here. The Quran, if it is true, this Quran is from Allah, and it is from Allah and they disbelieve in it, what is the consequences of disbelieving in something which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And on top of that, there is someone from Bani Israel that believed in this book. Now, this is very important to identify Bani Israel, because to highlight a person from Bani Israel, it tells us that this particular person from Bani Israel looked at the Quran and believed in the Quran. So this particular person of Bani Israel is a great example, because the people of Bani Israel are people of the book. So they had prophets and their Taurat is from God, and they could recognize that the Quran is from God. So we had a few discussions on who this witness is, right? And there were various opinions of various scholars. Some even say that it's Isa alayhi salam, with substantial evidences to prove that it is from Isa alayhi salam. And of course, the followers of Isa alayhi salam were all by Israel also, right? And later on, then I'm talking about the direct followers of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The disciples of Nabi Isa alayhi salam were Bani Israel, because he brought the religion, he brought Injil to the children of Israel, because he was one of the children of Israel. They were arrogant, as Allah does not guide the unjust one. So that is the reality of these people. They're not going to accept the Quran, right? They denounce the Quran, and because they denounce the Quran, they have been unjust to themselves and unjust to others, because they have prevented others from even from believing in the Quran also. So Allah will not guide them. Those who disbelieve say concerning those who believe, if it had been a good, they would not have accepted it before us. So now they give another of their reasons why they cannot accept the Quran, because they don't see the Quran as good. If where they are concerned, they are people of high caliber, people of high intellect, people of great wisdom, and if they had seen the Quran to be good, they would have accepted it. But because they didn't accept it, that means there's not much good in the Quran. Since they did not seek to be guided, they say it's an old lie. So eventually they try to find another reason why they are not going to accept this guidance from Rasulullah SAW, because it's just a lie. Why did they say it's a lie? Because for centuries they have said about all these prophets before has been talking about punishment from God. Although there were punishment along the way, anyway, there was no resurrection and things like that. All these are just scare tactics of some people. Not true. All are lies. I will continue. وَمِنْ قَبْلِهِ كِتَابُ مُوسَى. And from before it, the book of Musa. So we say وَمِنْ قَبْلِهِ. Right, so min, and it's qabli because it's jar, min is sort of jar. Kitabu Musa, book of Musa. Kitabu Musa, book of Musa. We can see this is mudaf ilahi because kitabu doesn't have a tanween here. But Musa, the name is fixed on its that. You don't see we have not seen Musu or Musi. It does not have it doesn't follow the grammatical structure, right? So, but it's understood it is jar here. Imaman, so a guide. Imam is a guide, and it is nasab to emphasize that the book guides. Warahma, and a mercy. Again, another nasab here. Rahma, and both of them are nakira. Nakira means non-specific, so it is a great guide and a great mercy. Wahada, and this kitabun book, musaddiqul lisanan Arabiyan. And this particular book confirming Arabic language. Lisan and Arabian is the Arabic language. And Lisan is language here. Arab is of course Arabic language. Musaddiqan lisanan Arabiyan. ومن قبله كتاب موسى إماما ورحمة وهذا كتاب مصدق لسانا عربيا Liyundhira, li is so that. So it warns. The ya here refers to it. It warns. It here refers to the Quran. So it warns alladhina, those dhalamu who were unjust. We saw Allah's mentioning this unjust people. Dhalamu, a bushra, and a good news. Bushra lil muhsinin, for the excellent ones. Let's look at the translation. وَلِيُنْذِرَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا وَبُشْرَى لِلْمُحْسِنِينَ. And before it, the book of Musa was a guide and a mercy. And this is a book verifying in the Arabic language that it may warn those who are unjust and as a good news for the doers of good. Now, here we see the word doers of good, but you can see the translation here for the excellent ones, right? Doers of good sometimes do the word itself, the words actually do. It's an injustice actually. Injustice to the actual intent of the Quran. We'll move on later on, inshallah. All right, so Allah talks about before this, وَمِن قَبْلِهِ Kitabu Musa. So remind them, okay, let's talk about Bani Israel just now. So the Bani Israel has access to the book of Musa. And they are reminded about the book of Musa. And the book of Musa is a guide and a mercy to the people of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. All right. There is this reference where the Torah expresses the continuity of testimony. Before this, the book of Musa has come as an imam and mercy. The word imam means guide. Now, why book of Musa and not Injil? Because in Arabia, the bigger bulk of the people of the book are of the Jews, right? As mentioned, the Jews, they have a message from their book, Taurat, that the final prophet will be in Medina. Hence, they have settled themselves in Medina, hoping that one of their offsprings would be the last prophet of God. All right, so the book of Musa is emphasized here also because there was mention of the people of Bani Israel who bore witness to the fact that the Quran is a true book of Allah's, is divine in nature. All right, so the book of Musa was a guide and was a mercy. This is exactly the same thing as has been stated about the Quran by the words guidance and mercy. So the book of Musa was a guidance and was a mercy. So is the Quran. The Quran is also a guide. It guides people, and with the guidance in itself is a great mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in the best of form, and He has placed certain elements that would bring us away from the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so He has told Nabi Adam alayhi salam that He would send the guidance down to man. And whoever follows the guidance, he would not have fear, nor would he be grieving. All right, and a mercy. So it's a great mercy because when we follow the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our life would be good, inshallah. And we would have good in this world and also in the next world. These words are used with respect to both this world and the next. The book of God, the book of Allah guides people in this world, and the next becomes a means of Allah's mercy. All right, so this particular Mufassirin is mentioning that there is that the Imam is in this world, but the mercy is in the next world. But of course, there are those who would attest to the fact that the mercy is also in this world because they have experienced the great mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by following the guidance of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever the case is, be it a book from Musa alayhi salam or from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this book is from Allah and this book guides people, and via the guidance, right, this guidance that we are blessed with is a great mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we see, this is Nakira, the guidance is an immense guidance, right? It's a guidance that cannot be stipulated by anyone, and the mercy is also immense, and the mercy is just unimaginable mercy, great mercy, is priceless what we have here. Its real nature is that of a leader. Just as it is essential that a leader be obeyed, it is essential that this book be obeyed in the matters of this world. So that is the prime role of the book of Allah, is that it is a leader. So as a leader, we need to obey the leader, right? If we don't obey the leader, everything will be in chaos, right? So here in this world, we need to obey the leader. If this status of this book is not acknowledged, then however much it may be respected by the tongue, and however much it may be kissed to honor it, all these acts are meaningless in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah is saying, of course, the book of Musa alayhi salam comes around with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the nature of books sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is not just, we need to acknowledge the reality of this book, that it is a guide. And we use it in a guidebook. We have guidebooks in this world, right? When we learn, less studies in schools, so that we go for guidebooks to help us find better ways of approaching the subject and dealing with various questions and things like that. And of course, a guidebook is like a manual kind of thing that guides us to maximize usage of certain instruments that we buy. Most of us don't really read the manuals that we have when we buy certain items, electrical items or whatever. Even with the calculator and the computers, if we read the manual, actually, we would gain much more than just grappling around with whatever we have. All right, so the Quran is a manual for us, so that we would, by following the manual closely and reading the manual and following the manual, we would maximize our life and benefit greatly in this world, and also be rewarded in the next world. He says here, you don't take the Quran as just, oh, I love the Quran, this book of Allah, but you never read the Quran, never learn the Quran. So that is not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to guide you. That is why in the next world, right, when we go into our graves, I don't know when we're going to go into the graves, right, one of the questions will be, who is your guide? And our guide is not Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the Quran. The guide is the Quran. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned in a hadith that the straight path, that we are asking Allah to guide us along the straight path. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, guide us along the straight path, right? The straight path, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is a very straight path, he says, and there's walls, right? So you can see right to the end of the path. And straight means it's easy, it's not crooked, it doesn't go here and there. And in the walls are windows, are doors actually, with curtains. As we pass through this long path, right, we will hear sounds from outside the curtains, the doors, right? And we might be tempted, and we might actually open quick through the curtain and see very interesting or enticing things outside, and we might just leave the path that we are on. Right, but as we are moving through the path, right, and we are tempted by things outside the path, right, which is of course all the temptations of the world, right? There will be a voice, right, from above that tells you, no, don't move on straight, don't get out of this path, right? And that is our conscience. Allah has given us conscience. Most of us, our conscience would tell us what's good and what's bad. And then there will also be a voice at the end of the path, and that is the voice of the Quran calling you on and on and on to move straight on and not to be distracted by what's outside the path. All right, so to kiss the Quran, yeah, people just swear by the Quran. They use the Quran as items, but not as a leader in their life. So it becomes meaningless in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ, and this book, مُصَدِّقٌ, confirms a confirmation, right? You can see that it is describing the book, right? This book, مُصَدِّقٌ لِسَانًا عَرَبِيًّا, right? It's confirming, and it is in Arab. Right? Why Arabic? Because it's brought by an Arab prophet. We have gone through verses in which they say, oh, we would have believed in it if it's not Arabic. That is something a wonder, because an Arab man bringing a non-Arabic book. So that was one of the reasons why they say, then we will believe in it. But Allah says, if it was an Arab man bringing a non-Arabic book, some would say, what nonsense is this? He's trying to teach us something which is non-Arabic. Right? So nothing seems to be right. So Allah says, this, the book, a book that is confirming, it confirms what? The Torah. Whatever is in the Torah is confirmed by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran. And it is in Arabic. The Quran revealed in Arabic is in confirmation of the predictions of the Torah. Just as Isa alayhi has borne witness to it, in a similar way, Musa alayhi too has made predictions about it earlier on. So this particular Mufassirin saw this as a confirmation that the particular Bani Israel who bore witness to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was Isa alayhi salam. Because we see in this verse, right, after the fact that this person from Bani Israel believes in is a witness to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this verse starts with a wow, and so he's saying that it is Nabi Isa and also Nabi Musa alayhi salam who was given the book also. So Isa alayhi salam, as mentioned by the Mufassirin last week, his book, right? In his book, there are many instances which confirms or which bear witness to the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he saw this particular Mufassirin, his name is Amin Aslahi. He says that this witness is not witnessing the Quran in itself, as some other scholars says that there are particular Bani Israel, people of Bani Israel during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, right, who attest to the truth of the Quran. So this particular Bani Israel was supposed to be one in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some have suggested as Abdullah ibn Salim, but many has rejected that because Abdullah ibn Salim became Muslim after the migration, whereas this particular surah is before the migration. So this particular Mufassirin is saying that this witness is witnessing the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu. It bears witness by the book of Isa alayhi salam. It means the book of the Injil bore witness to the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also Musa alayhi salam has the book which is confirmed by the Quran, or it confirms the presence of the Quran. The book of Musa actually confirms that the Quran, or has indicated that the Quran will be in Arabic, as since the Quran will be revealed, or the last prophet would be in Medina, there would be no it's no brainer, right, to say that the Quran is in Arabic. All right, let's move. These predictions were awaiting to be materialized. It's materialized, right? That there is this witnessing by both Isa alayhi salam and the book of Musa that Rasulullah sallam will appear in an Arab-speaking nation. So the book is in Arabic. The revelation of the Quran was a materialization of these predictions, and in this manner, the Quran attested the Torah. Generally, people have interpreted this verse to mean that since Quran accepts the Torah as a divine book, hence the Quran too is a divine book. So there is a difference in look at this verse, that the Quran accepts the Torah as a divine book, but here it is saying that the Quran confirms the Torah. وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ مُصَدِّقٌ لِسَانًا عَرَبِيًّا. So it's saying that the Quran confirms that the Torah is a divine book. But in another look at it would say that the Quran confirms whatever is being said in the Torah of the presence of the coming of this book, which would be in Arabic. So this is an absolutely absurd interpretation. So where this scholar is concerned, he considers it as absurd. If the Quran regards the Torah to be a divine book, then this indeed is an argument to regard the Torah to be divine. But how can this prove the Quran to be divine? So that is why his suggestion is this, that it doesn't prove the Quran is divine. So his look is that the Torah has bore witness to the fact that the Quran will be revealed to a prophet who is an Arab, and so the Quran will be Arabic. So the Torah bear witness to it, and so that confirms that the Quran is divine. Does that make sense? Going around the bush, am I not? No, not really. All right, anyway, the Quran can be attested to be divine by the Torah only when from within its text are predictions about it and its bearer. And with the revelation of the Quran and the advent of Rasulullah, these predictions are attested to in such a manner that no just person can refute them. In fact, every honest and unbiased person will wholeheartedly acknowledge that these predictions have truly materialized. The person who was referred to by them has actually substantiated this prediction. So the Torah bear witness to the truthfulness of the Quran, right? It is a confirmation that this particular book of Allah is from a particular book given to Rasulullah was definitely from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no doubt about it. As we have seen later on after Rasulullah's migration, where Rasulullah went to Medina, where the bulk of the Jews were, right? They were there because they knew that the Prophet of Allah will be in Medina. What they didn't know was that, right, that he would be born in Mecca first. So when they heard news of a prophet in Mecca, right, they come to realize that they have sort of not seen through very well what the Torah was. Although some of the rahibs, or the priests and the monks, right, they had also knowledge of the day Rasulullah was born, okay? The night Rasulullah was born, and there are various changes in the universe that allows them to realize that the last prophet was born. It is with regard to this aspect that the Quran has been called the attester to the misdaq, right? Sadiq, musaddiq to the previous scriptures, and not with regard to the aspect generally understood by people. All right, so the Quran proves, it is a proof of what is being said in the previous scriptures. The Quran indeed regards the scriptures to be divine, but at the same time declares them to be inflicted with corruptions. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never, Rasulullah has warned us against rejecting any verse from the Quran, from the Bible or from the Injil, and from, even for that matter, from the Bible. All right, for our understanding of the Bible is not the book of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, because if you look through the Bible, we can see that the Bible actually contains narrations or hadiths, as you call them, from the various disciples of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The gospel is the one that is supposed to be, that is the angel or the evangel, as some has put it. But whatever the case is, Rasulullah has always reminded us, if one person, a member of the people of the book, right, claims that this verse is from Allah, then you just have to say, we believe in whatever is from Allah, because we don't really know whether that particular verse is truly from Allah or it has been corrupted. So that's the reality of the books of before Quran that has been corrupted. For this reason, the attestation is not absolute. This phrase, lisanan Arabiyan, expresses a favor done to the Quraysh and also refer to some predictions made by the Torah, made in the Torah. So the first of these aspects is evident. Allah, by revealing the Quran in Arabic, enhanced the respect commanded by the language, lent it the sanction of eternal existence, chose the Arabs to communicate and bear witness to his religion, and left them with no excuse to deny the truth. All right, so that's it. So the first of these aspects is evident. Right, first, by revealing why does the first of the aspect is that it is a favor done to the Quraysh. Why is the Quran being revealed in Arabic a favor done to the Quraysh? Why? Because it lends respect to the language itself. Language status has been raised, right? Because it is the divine words are in the Arabic. Lent it the sanction of eternal existence. The Quran is read, the Quran is kept in Arabic through forever. Even in the next world, right, we would be speaking in Arabic. Chose the Arabs to communicate and bear witness. So they are chosen, right, by Allah, right, as we understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in other parts of the Quran that Allah has removed the Bani Israel from the chosen people and now has chosen the Ummah of Rasulullah. Of course, in the first instance, the Arabs. Nevertheless, there were not all of the Sahaba of Rasulullah were Arabs. We've got Shuhaib, a Rum. When you say when the Arabs call them Rum, doesn't mean they are from Rome, right? That means they are the people of Europe. Right, then we've got Salman al-Farsi, Persian, right? And we've got Bilal, Bilal was Ethiopian. So, but they speak Arabic. So the Arabic language was used to communicate and bear witness to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and left them with no excuse to deny the truth. So no one can deny the truth because it is obvious. With regard to the second aspect, it is found in the Torah about the last messenger that he will be from among the unlettered, that is the Ishmaelites. So the Arabs knew or referred to the Ishmaelites, the Jews, the Bani Israel, referred, considered the Ishmaelites as the unlettered ones. And because in the Torah it was said that the last messenger will be from the unlettered ones. So it is understood that the last messenger will be an Arab. It is obvious the language of these unlettered people was Arabic. Thus, a reference to their language is in fact a reference to the Arabs themselves. The word لِيُنذِرَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, so that it will warn those who have done injustice or who have wronged themselves. Allude to the objective of this book. So what is the aim of this book? The Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed this book so that people who have wronged themselves by being incriminated with polytheism and disbelief be informed of their fate, so that those who want to reform themselves can do so before materialization of the final consequences. So the book here is to warn those. It's particularly mentioned here. It is the aim of the book is to warn those who have wronged themselves. How have they wronged themselves? They have disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We have prophets who have said that, like Nabi Adam alayhi salam, who says, Rabbana zalamna anfusana. So the word zalama is used. And what did Nabi Adam did? Nabi Adam actually disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana. So he is very remorseful. And then we have Nabi Yunus alayhi salam, in which he says, La ilaha illa anta. There is no God but you. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka. All glory and all perfect is you. Inni kuntu minal zalimin. Surely I am of those who have done wrong. So to do wrong is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in particular, right, the disobedience was also to create partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the previous verses, we talked about the zalimun as people are very arrogant, who's not going to accept truth when they see truth also, right? So eventually they end up disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's to warn them of the consequences of their behavior, of their rejection of Allah, of their practices which are against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they don't change, so as a warning, you're supposed to heed warnings. That's what warnings are. When you heed warnings, right, then you would be safe from the consequences of what's going to happen if you continue with your way of life. So if you don't, then you would have to suffer the consequences of your inactions. وَبُشْرَى لِلْمُحْسِنِينَ, and good news for the muhsin. Subhanallah. Allah used muhsin here. Muhsin, not the muttaqin, not the mu'minin, not the muslimin, but muhsinin. Right? Muhsinin. Good news to those who are muhsinin. Muhsinin are people of high, really, really high caliber. Among the Muslims, there are muhsin. All right, first you are a Muslim. That means you submit to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As you continue with the submission to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you actually slowly increase in your certainty and your belief. Then you become a mu'min. And with belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eventually you reach the state of a muhsin, where you would strive for excellence in whatever actions that you do that sought the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we have gone through the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, we do note that Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was referred to as a muhsin a number of times, right? Why? Because Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam is one blessed with taqwa and patience. So you can see that muttaqin is a lower maqam, a lower station than muhsinin. So great news for the muhsinin. And here we see the previous word as alladhina zalamu. If you are not a muhsin, there are chances of you actually committing acts of wrongdoing, right? Because you have not reached the stage of a muhsinin. So you'll still be warned, right? Mu'mins will be warned, Muslims will be warned because of your sins that you commit. Warned of the consequences of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you are a muhsin, as I mentioned, this is an ism, which means at all times you are one who strive for excellence. And these are the people who will get the good news and not be warned at all, right? Because they are past that category of people who are to be warned. People like us are still have to be warned. We are not reached that state of being a muhsin yet. We strive, inshallah. We dua that Allah bless us and include us among the muhsinin, because the muhsinin, Allah says Allah loves the muhsinin. This is the second objective of this book. It is a great and eternal glad tidings for the righteous. And the word righteous somehow doesn't seem to fit well, right, with the word muhsin, because muhsin comes from the word ihsan. Ihsan is superlative of the word hasan. Hasan is good, yes, but ihsan is to excel. All right. Since this is the real objective of the book, it is mentioned in the form of a noun. So he's saying that this ism, right, because That is what it is. It's a great news for those who are at all times in a state of excellence. The muhsin here occurs here in contrast to the word alladhina dhalamu. This contrast highlights the meaning of the word. It refers to people who guarded all their potentials and abilities and spent their lives within the limits stipulated by their creator. They did not wrong themselves at all, right? Because they are muhsin, as mentioned in the explanation, previous explanation. All right. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah. Surely those, they say, rabbuna Allah, our Rabb is Allah. Rabbuna. Rabbu is Rabb. Allah is our Rabb. Inna alladhina. You can see that inna is sort of nasab. But alladhina stays as it is. It doesn't change to jar form with the kasra or with the dhamma, because it's a fixed word. You can't change fixed words. In alladhina, and surely those, they said, past tense, qalu, fi'il madi, rabbuna Allah, thumma istaqamu, then they are upright. Istiqama, of course, we say they are consistently following what they have to follow. Istiqama, and it is persevering in being upright. Istiqamu, again, this is past tense fi'il madi. Fala khawfun alayhim. Fa is then, la is no, khawf is fear, ala is on, alayhim on them. Fala khawfun alayhim. Innal ladhina qalu rabbuna Allahu thumma istaqamu. فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون, and not they grieving, right? And not they grieving, or they grieve, if you want to put that. Grieving, because yahzanun, as you can see, is fi'al mudari, and it is in its rafa state, because this is, and not they grieve. Well, this is emphasized that they will not be grieving. All right, surely those who say our Rabb is Allah, then they continue on the right way, they shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. In alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah, so those people, they are the ones who says our Rabb is Allah. So our Rabb is Allah, that means our Rabb is only Allah, right? Because where the Arabs are concerned, Allah is God, the one who creates, but they have a lot of other Rabbs, and their Rabbs are daughters of God, who are angels. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah. What is required of them is that they say our Rabb is Allah. These are not idle words. Indeed, they represent more than belief. They embody a complete system that applies to every step, action, and feeling in life. So once you attach to the fact that your Rabb is Allah, He is the one who nurtures you, is the one who gives you, is the one who creates you. So you turn to Him and you depend everything on Him, and you put the complete trust on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They set up a criterion to judge every thought, event, action, relation, bond, and person. So what is the criteria of these people who says Rabbun Allah? It's not mere words, it is a conviction. A conviction to take Allah as your judge in every thought, to take event, action, relation, bond, and persons. Whatever you do, right, you are aware that your Rabb is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are a Rabb, main word Rabb is translated by the Arabs are concerned as a master. A master, we are a slave. So if He is our master, we would always obey our master. And this master is the kind of master that is very, very good to the slave. So we have this master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We've gone through the meaning of Rabb, the various meanings of Rabb. And so we are inclined, right, to our master. And we are always, at every moment, we would do anything for our master. Our Rabb is Allah. To Him we address our worship because He is our master. We are a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to understand that slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covers worship and obedience at all points. All right. All right. It's the same that we seek. We go for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is on Him alone that we rely. We have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We leave our affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is tawakkul. When you say we tawakkal to Allah, that means we know that Allah will be there for us to handle our affairs in the best of ways. Our Rabb is Allah. No one else matters. All our hopes look up to Him, and we fear none but Him. So that's life is all for Allah, right? We live for Allah. We fear none, but we fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we fear of Allah? We fear the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We hope for His mercy, and we fear the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our position of fearing the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when we become a muhsin, because we do the best that we can do for fear of Allah not accepting our deeds when it is less than the best. Rabbun Allah, in every thought, judgment, and action, we seek His pleasure. Rabbun Allah, He is the law. His is the law we implement, and from Him alone we receive guidance. The law of Allah is a law that we will live by, and our guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbun Allah, all our bonds with anyone or thing in the whole world are subject to our relation with Him. That means whatever we do, right, in our interactions with people, right, we are always aware that we have attested to the fact that our Rabb is Allah. This is the next step that defines a straight line that we should follow with reassurance and steady feelings, entertaining neither doubts nor fears. Right? We are confirmed on the path. We stay on the path. We persevere in the path. We hold ourselves, and we do not get out of the path. We hold ourselves in times of turmoil, in times of trials and whatever, right? When we are being attacked, we hold on to it because we believe in it, right? So only after we have taken Allah as our Rabb will we be able to be steadfast in obedience and in following the teachings of the guidance in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus, actions and behavior will always be in line with Allah's code, avoiding pitfalls and resisting all temptations. Muhsinin are those who utter their belief, confirm from the bottom of their hearts, and stand firm on the path of true religion in terms of faith and practice. So this is the example. This is to further illustrate the reality of a person who is a muhsin. Just completely nothing. They are not wavered from anything pertaining to the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They fearlessly adhered to this declaration in spite of every opposition. فَلَا خَوْفٌ, then no fear, alayhim, on them, and not they be grieving, not they grieve. Right now, first you see فَلَا خَوْفٌ. Khawf is a noun, right? That means no, the khawf, if khawf being a noun, it means that it is a state that has no time frame. That means it's a continuous state. We cannot be in a continuous state of fear. No, we have no continuous state of fear, right? And that means at all times. But once you say walahum yahzanun, and that is fi'al mudari, right? Continuously, again, continuously grieving, right? because it's present and future. In the present, you are grieving. In the future, also grieving. Now, there are various opinions on this particular statement. فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. We are aware that this statement comes around in the Quran at least 13 times. At least. Okay? Allah reminds us that groups of people who would be in this category of people who would have no fears whatsoever and will not be in a state of grieving. فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So the statement Rabbuna Allah outlines the system, and following the system after having consciously chosen it is a higher grade still. So you choose it because you admit to the fact that your Rabb is Allah, and then you hold on to it, right? Then you would have no fears whatsoever. You are in a very high state already. Those whom Allah guides to have both are indeed the best people. Hence, they have no fear of anything or grieve over anything when they have a system that leads to Allah, and following it is the best assurance to be with Him. They're not afraid of being threatened. They know Allah is there for them. They're not afraid of jinns and whatever, because they know Allah is there for them. They're not afraid of being intimidated, because Allah is there for them. Allah is there, so they have no fears whatsoever. And if anything disturbs them, they don't continuously grieve. Right? They stop the grief. Yes, as human beings, we do have grief. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when his son Ibrahim passed away, they saw tears in his eyes, and they say, "Ya Rasulullah, do you also cry?" And he says, "I'm human, I do feel." But you don't go on grieving and grieving and grieving and grieving and grieving and crying and putting yourself in a very bad emotional state that you lose yourself. That's not a person of a muhsin. A muhsin don't do that. Now, they need not fear of what is in store for them, nor do they grieve as to their past. So this is an opinion of some scholars that this khawf, right, fear is fear of the impending danger of the next one. Right? What they have been warned against, they have got no fear whatsoever because they are blessed with good news. Bushra lil muhsinin. So they do not have that fear of being in hell. They are not fear of all the punishments that's going to occur in the next world. And we are aware that there are a group of people who will not be subjected to accounting, right, in the next world because they are just amazing slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the muhsinin, right? And moments which Allah describes as frightening moments, and the day of resurrection, they are not in that. They have no fears whatsoever. So this is the opinion here. In the next, they have no fear of what's in store for them, and they do not grieve their past. Why don't they grieve their past? Because they are muhsin. Why do we grieve our past? We look at our past and we feel sad that we have disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We did all kinds of nonsense when we were young. And we do feel that remorse in us for the great disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We grieve. And we do worry, right? Because we fear that we might be punished for the sins that we have committed. Although some of us might think, oh, everything is forgiven. No guarantee for everything being forgiven. Allah knows best who to forgive and who not to forgive. That is what Allah mentioned in the Quran many times, right? Of those who do wrong, it's up to Allah whether He will forgive them or not. Some of them He forgives, and some of them punishment is due on them, especially those who know that it is wrong and rebelled against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purposely disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even after knowing that it is wrong. They say, I've got no regard whatsoever to the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the sovereignty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Needlessness of fear and grief by believers standing firm on the path may refer to fears and griefs in the other worldly matters. All right, so that is also another opinion. All other worldly matters, cause you to fear not having money, fear of losing your boyfriend, fear of, maybe nowadays for us, no more fear of losing your boyfriend. Because some women, they are so afraid of losing their boyfriend, they will give it to their boyfriend because they're so afraid so they commit sins, right? No fears at all for people of Mohsin, and we don't grieve over things that we have lost. We lose money, we lose family members. Yeah, it's life, right? Allah knows best, right? It's time, their time is up, and so we don't offer them. That's the best for us to do, inshallah. No grieving. Grieving is dangerous. The shaitan works on your grief, right, to bring you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people, no griefs for them. On the resurrection day, they stand near to Allah and are saved from the great distress there. They neither fear of torment nor are they grieve of their past. So these are again opinions of this particular verse. Negation of fear and grief from the beneficent may include their mundane life and that to come, since one who believes in Allah is the only God, fears nothing. You only fear, as mentioned, this is about the Mohsin, right? The only fear of the Mohsin is that Allah does not accept what they do. It's the only fear. Nothing else is their fear. It's all about Allah's approbation, Allah's approval of what they do, Allah's pleasure of what they do. The perfect believer is one who admits no impediments in his way, attains to the station of certain certitude by sight, ainul yaqeen, or real certitude, haqqul yaqeen. They are sure, right? This is the truth. They have got no doubt about the truth of Allah being their Rabb, and so they live life only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such attainment is possible through firm will to act. So you only would achieve this with a firm will to act according to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus, perfect faith depends on clemency, perseverance, and standing firm, so that one may struggle against his concupiscence, that their desires, right? So you fight against all the desires and ward off devils, so that such that angels may find their ways into his heart, and he may attain the station of a peaceful soul, nafsul mutma'inna, right? The soul that Allah says, irji'i rabbiki radiyatan maradiyah, right? Come to your Rabb, that is soul, irji'i. Allah invites the soul to his Rabb, right? Being radiyatan mardiyah. Radiyah is one who is pleased, and mardiyah, one who is someone is pleased with, and Allah is pleased with them. So that is, of course, our aim, to be one of those souls of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want the angel to be with us. So we have lots of zikrs, we do salawats, and the angels are making du'as for us, and we have gone through the verses in which the angels seek forgiveness for us, and we are of the true slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are satisfied, content with everything that Allah blesses us. So we are really, really grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for including us among the believers. And inshallah, we hope we would eventually become among the muhsinin. Such a person will be termed as perfect believer, and as per the verse in question, there will be no fear or grief for him. Ulaika, those ashabul jannah, companions of Jannah. Ashabul Jannah, khalidina, abiders. Khalidin, from the word khalid, is to be forever. Khalidin, they are, it's plural, and it is nasab. Ulaika ashabul Jannah, khalidina fiha, abiders in it. Fiha, in it. Khalidina. Jaza'an bima kanu ya'malun. Jaza'an, a reward. Nasab to show the greatness of the reward there. Bima, for what, or because of what. With what, in what. Kanu, they were ya'malun. Amal is to do, ya'malun, they were doing. So what did they used to do? Some translation actually use it as they used to do. Look at the translation here. Such shall be the dwellers of paradise, abiding therein forever. A reward for what they used to do. They were doing can be translated as they used to do. Ulaika ashabul jannati khalidina fiha jaza'an bima kanu ya'malun. All right. So those people, right, they are Muslim. They got good news. They say our Rabb is Allah. They stay firm in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people, they have no fear and they have no grief. They will not be grieving. There's no reason for them to be grieving. Then the other companions of Jannah. Ashabul Jannah, companions of Jannah. People who accepted the true calls of the Quran and declared that only Allah was their Rabb and fearlessly adhered to this declaration in spite of every opposition are given an eternal glad tidings. Great news is that they are going to be the companions of Jannah. They will be in Jannah. They have familiarization with Jannah. And the word Sahaba means those who are familiar with, right? Those who have known Jannah, right? Some of these people, they actually go into Jannah even before they enter, before the next world, right? Because you have, we see Rasulullah as an example, and of course the prophets of the other Sahabas of Rasulullah who has experienced these great joys of being in states of tranquility and peace, So they've got this sense in them of being in Jannah. For Rasulullah, as we are aware, during one of his prayer salat, he actually was in Jannah and he reached out for the fruits of Jannah. It mentioned that as his hands reached out for the fruit of Jannah. And we are aware, those of us Muslims, believers, right, who has attained perfection in their soul. Of course, you can't attain perfection as Rasulullah, but you have attained a certain Muslim state. When they do their salat, they are actually transported, right, under the arash of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they are lost. They are no more in this world when they are in their salat. And we have examples of that in the Sahabas of Rasulullah. There was a Sahaba who had an arrow stuck in his shank, and they were to pull it out. It's going to be very painful. So he says, let me go into my salat. And while doing salat, please pull it out. So he was lost in the presence of Allah during his salat. So when they pull it out, he didn't feel a thing. So that's people who experience Jannah in this world, and they will be people of the Jannah in the next world. Ulaika ashabul Jannah. They will neither have any fear of the future nor any sorrow of the past. They will be the eternal dwellers of paradise. Khalidina fiha, that's it. Eternal dwellers of paradise. They will be abiders in it. They will not be coming out of it. Jaza'an, a great reward. Jaza'an, not the reward, but a reward. Doesn't mean one. All right, this is called nakira. It's called unknown. It's non-specific. That means there's lots and lots and lots of reward because of what they used to do. So it's about your actions, right? Islam does not only it's not only based on belief. It's about actions. What you do is very, very important. Jaza'an bima kanu ya'malun. They have been doing lots and lots of good deeds. Their actions, as we know, being muhsin, they act to the best of their abilities. Another merit of good doers and those standing firm on the path of faith, as per which they use the word good doers, but it's muhsin, excellent ones, which they are from among the dwellers of paradise for good as a reward for their good deeds in this world. Admitting to divine oneness, standing firm in their faith without any instability in their certitude and faith in their mundane life. Daily life, they are firm with the belief in Allah, right? There is no way they're going to waver in their stance, right, in believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they are those who achieve perfection in their slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Paradise is the reward of those who act rather than those who merely talk. So it's called, they were doing. All right, let's recite. وقال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا لو كان خيرا ما سبقونا إليه وإذ لم يهتدوا به فسيقولون هذا إفك قديم ومن قبله كتاب موسى إماما ورحمة وهذا كتاب مصدق لسانا عربيا لينذر الذين ظلموا وبشرى للمحسنين إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون أولئك أصحاب الجنة خالدين فيها جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. Finish it. Go on to the words kurhan, hardship. وَفِصَالُهُ, winning him. Wa is N. Fisal is winning. Who is him or it? Can mean it also. Watatajawazu. Wanatajawazu. Right. Natajawazu. All right. Wa is N. Na is we. The word is jawaza. Right. This is tafa'ala structure. Right, and we pass over. Jawaza is to pass, and we pass. And no, we pass over. It's terrible grammar. Present future tense, right? Because the ta na is outside, right, the front, na at the beginning, so we know it's present future tense. Wa natajawazu, and we have ataida ni. A question 2. Taida. You, ta is you. Wa'id can be a warning or a threat, right? Wa'id can be a promise also. Wa'id. So wa'ada here is a root word. Actually, the waw is not seen here. Ata'ida ni. And ni is me. Do you threaten me? Ata'ida ni. All right, let's look at the words again. Kurhan, hardship. Wafisaluhu, and winning him. Wanatajawazu, and we pass over. Ataidanini, do you threaten me? Wawasaina is a very long verse. We might not be able to finish through. All right, we'll try. We will see how it goes. Wawasainal insanu. Wa is N. Wasiya. Wasiya is to bequeath. We use the word enjoin, translate as enjoin, right? We wasiatkan, I mean, it's the Malay word there. Malay word from the Arabic word wasiatkan. It's it's a stronger word than enjoin actually. Wasiat is to bequeath to you. Wawasaina, na is we, past tense, so that's fi'il madi. Wawassaina, it means that there's a sort there continuously reminding you and joining on you. Al-insan, the man. Right? So the man is being enjoined upon, so the man is in its nasab state. Biwalidayhi, with his parents. Walidayhi is plural, right? Two is two, and that's parents. B is with walidayhi, his parents. Ihsanan. We talk about kindness here. Ihsan, right, translated as kindness, goodness. I would say, I would look at it as excellent behavior. Right? The word ihsan is being used here. Hamalathu. Now we look at hamalat. Hamalat is to carry. Hamil is to be pregnant. The ta at the end is female. So this verb is a past tense referring to a female. And we see the female here is ummu. Ummu is mother, and ummu is in rafa. So it is the subject of the one that carried. Hamalathu, the who is him. Hamalathu ummuhu, carried him his mother. Kurhan, hardship. Wa wada'athu, wa is and wada'a is to deliver, right, or to give birth. Ta at the end, female again, past tense. Wa wada'athu, and delivered him kurhan, hardship. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها وحمله حمله not حمله no it's حمله is rafa and carrying him or the carrying of him وحمله carrying him وحمله who is him وفصاله and weaning him فصاله is weaning him 30 شهرا 30 ثلاثة 3 30 is 30 شهر months شهر months حتى until إذا when بلغ أشده he reached past tense بلغ is to reach maturity but أشده أشده is full strength full potential right أشده not أشده sorry أشده أشده who is his maturity all right وحمله وفصاله 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 and he reached وبلغ and he reached 40 سنة years 40 years 40 سنة where you see 40 is a nasab because it is the thing that is being reached, so it's an object. وَبَلَغَ 40 sanatan. Sanatan also we see as a nasab. Qala, he said, Rabbi, my Rabb, the Rabbi, the ba there is, there's a ya, supposed to have a ya, but the ya is removed. And we understand it means my Rabb. Auzi'ni, enable me. We will go on to the meaning of the word waza'a here. Auzi'ni, an ashkura, and is that. Ashkura is present future, the alif is I. Ashkura is nasab because of an being huruf nasab. An ashkura ni'mataka. Ni'mah is favor, ka is your favor. Of course, is capital referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here. An ashkura ni'mataka allati, your favor that. Allati is female for alladhi, right? Because ni'mah is female. Ni'mah supposed to be ni'mah, but of course you don't say ni'mah there because of the ka. It becomes ni'mataka. An ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta. An'amta, the ta is you, right? And that is fi'il madi. And amta means you cause the favor to be on me. And amta, you cause the favor. This is af'ala structure. And amta alayya. Allah is on. Ya is me. وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً قَالَ رَبِّي أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ. Wa is N, Allah is on. Waliday, we have that word before. And my parents. Wa walidayya, the ya at the end is a my. And my parents. Walidayya, wa an, and that mala. Mala, the alif is I. Right. And that I do. There's no N there. Wa an mala. Mala is in nasab because an is huruf nasab. Wa ala walidayya wa an a'mala, and that I do salihan, righteousness. Tardahu, ta is you, rida is to be pleased with, so you pleased with it, who it, right? I do amal, kepada amal, so the amal that you're pleased with the amal. Tardahu, you pleased with it. Wa asli, and make righteous. Leave for me, fi zurriyati, in my offsprings. Fi is in zurriyat, offspring, so you can put descendants there. And the ya at the end is my, in my offsprings. وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني surely I turned إليك to you وإني and surely I من المسلمين of those who submit. Inni, surely I turned ilayka to you. Wa inni, and surely I minal muslimin of the believers. So min is sort of jar, so muslimin here is in its jar state. Two is past tense, the two is I. Right? It's taubat here is tawabah. Taubat, turn to you. Taubat is to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have lost your way. You've come out of the path. You've gone through one of those curtains. And now you come back, right, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inni tubtu ilayka wa inni minal muslimin. And we have enjoined on man doing of good to his parents. With trouble did his mother bear him, and with trouble did she bring him forth. And the bearing of him and the weaning of him was 30 months, until when he attains his maturity and reaches 40 years, he says, my Rabb, grant me that I may give thanks for your favor, which you have bestowed on me and on my parents, and that I may do good which pleases you, and do good to me in respect of my offsprings. Surely I turn to you, and surely I am of those who submit. So Allah says, Allah has reminded people, Allah has bequeathed to them, Allah has enjoined them, they have to do it. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ. Allah didn't say believers, Allah didn't say muhsinin, all people. Insan, man, this is something which Allah has stipulated on all men. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ, with his parents, ihsana, good, or we say kindness, but we can say excellence of behavior. Behave well to your parents. This is what Allah says, behave well to your parents. The phrase wasaina is mentioned 5 times in the Quran, 3 instances of which are for parents. So it's a very strong enjoyment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enjoin you to do something. It is something which has been bequeathed to you. Being dutiful and kind to one's parents does not depend on their being Muslims. And you saw that, right? Even when they are not Muslims, you become a Muslim, you must still be kind to your parents. They are your parents, no matter what it is. Be good, be sweet, be gentle. We have gone through Surah Isra, where the 10 commandments are being stated, not explicitly, but known to the people of Bani Israel. That is why Surah Isra, the other name for the Surah Isra is Surah of Bani Israel, because the Bani Israel, they can recognize that Surah as having, as mentioned in parts of your book. So being good, doing the best you can to your parents. Dutiful and kind to one's parents does not depend on their being Muslims. So we saw our Sahabas of Rasulullah, most of a number of them, their parents didn't convert, and they were very kind to their parents, still kind to their parents. Although their parents might be hostile towards them by becoming Muslims, but they do not show any form of arrogance or being, or humiliating their parents for not being believers. They're not allowed to. It's against Islam. The basis of man's life and his felicity and improvement rests on consensus, kindness, and philanthropy. So to be happy in life, right, and to go on improving, we need approval from a lot of people around us, consensus. And we need to be kind, and we need to be sharing, philanthropy, right? And his closest relation is his parents, who partially form his material existence. So the one closest to us that we must agree with, we must at times, of course, there's another verse of the Quran which says that you cannot obey them if they are saying things against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking you to move away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be kind and gentle with them, right? As mentioned in Surah Isra, it is described beautifully as lower your wings on them, is care for them, bring them under your mercy. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enjoins men to do good to his parents. This to thee and I, and surely I am of those who submit. This is part of the translation. So it's important for our life that we actually be good to our parents. There's mercies in that. Looking at the Quranic verses and the traditions and narrations bears testament to the fact that as per divine command, doing good to one's parent is on par with worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based on which it is obligatory to be dutiful to one's parents and obey them unless they command. Their commands be inconsistent with divine commands and those of his messenger. Right? Right after believing in Allah comes being good, being showing the best of manners to your parents. Right here we were looking at the description of those who are muhsin, and one of the characteristics of a muhsin is to obey the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in being kind and gracious and excel in your manners with your parents. Nowadays youngsters don't seem to have good manners, and we are aware of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is called Hadith Jibril. In Hadith Jibril, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked what are the signs of the final day, and he said that the slave will be the mistress of the master, right? Which many has interpreted that the children will not have any compassion, not have any regard, will be bosses in the houses. And the mothers, the parents will become their slaves, listening to what they want and not the other way around, where the parents are in charge of the children. And one of the reasons given by the ulama is because of the lack of faith. The children with lack of faith tend not to have much regard for their parents. They can just reply you and hurt you and say all kinds of things without much regard for the position of parents. Of course. So if they are strong in faith, they would not have such bad manners to their parents. Of course, there are those who are brought up well, to understand the importance of love and care for parents. It is incumbent upon every individual to make every attempt to do good to them and obtain their satisfaction at all times, and to the extent possible to do so, since obedience to them and obtaining their satisfaction are on par with obedience to Allah and obtaining divine satisfaction. Of course, this is when the parents do not conflict with the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not force you against the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then again, in rejecting, in disobedience to them because of we do it in a very kind and gentle manner. Try to explain to them, this is your position, right? And this is, one scholar ever mentioned that the word obedience is not there for parents, but kindness, because not all times we can obey our parents. There are times where it's quite difficult to obey them, especially when they are very old and they are rather senile, and they expect you to do things which are not possible for you to do. And you need to go sit down and explain things to them, try to be kind to them and not to be harsh in your disobedience to them. There are ways for you to approach things in a nice manner, in a palatable manner, in a good manner, so that they understand. Allah has ingrained in this directive in man's nature, and all the prophets of Allah and righteous people also taught this. In all religions of the world, this is an acknowledged reality that after Allah, the parents have the greatest right on the person. Even whatever religion it is, right? Obedience to parents is utmost. So once there was a man, there was two people. One was from Singapore, another one was from America. So the Singapore guy said, "No, we people of the East um, are very filial to our parents, unlike the people of the West." So of course, the Westerner was very annoyed. No, we are also filial to our parents. It's a very bad statement to make, actually. In fact, it would not be wrong to say that as far as comprehension is concerned, it is a right of the parents which a person feels the foremost. For understanding purposes, we do understand that, if you understand from here, why Allah has given us this injunction is because we know parents have the greatest right over us. It is through the comprehension of his parents' right that he reaches Allah and the comprehension of his rights. By understanding why he need to be obedient to his parents. So first Allah proposed this right here, to talk about parents and why he should be do his best with his parents. And then he comes to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he would comprehend the rights of Allah. We will come to this later. As long as he remains an infant, he considers his parents to be everything, because whatever he acquires from them. Of course, in the younger days, right, in our younger days, we would consider our parents as the only one that we turn to, because the other ones that look after us, that care for us, and we don't know how to, live life without. We can't live life without them. They are there for us at all times. So we might have mates and whatever along the way, but still our parents will be there, right? And we try to be as good to them as possible. I mean, as infants, their parents are everything in their life. Now, this is going to be a long explanation, so I'm going to stop here. Inshallah, we will continue. It's a very long discussion about why Allah uses all these terms, why Allah highlights the mother, and then what happens later on. As mentioned, as you can see, the verse was a very long verse. Inshallah, we will continue with it, inshallah, next lesson. اللهم ارحمنا بالقرآن واجعله لنا إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. اللهم ذكرنا منه ما نسينا وعلمنا منه ما جهلنا وارزقنا تلاوته آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم أستودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القتر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.